The smug smile on the chief executive's face told me everything I needed to know before he even opened his mouth. He leaned across the polished mahogany table and informed me that my position as senior compliance officer was no longer essential to the company future. Beside him, the corporate human resources head stared down at her lap with a practiced look of quiet, uncomfortable shame. They truly believed they were streamlining a bloated defense contractor, completely oblivious to the fact that my unique clearance was the legal foundation holding up their entire operation. I did not scream or beg for my job because panic is useless when you already hold the winning hand. Instead, I calmly placed my physical access credentials on the glass table and slid the official notification paperwork across the surface for them to sign. The CEO launched into a rehearsed speech about shifting corporate priorities and modern efficiency models, while he mindlessly scrolled his signature on the document. He thought he was cutting unnecessary overhead, completely unaware that he had just signed off on the retroactive invalidation of every military charter we possessed. Working in federal compliance means understanding that bureaucracy is absolute and entirely unyielding to executive arrogance. For a decade, I was the quiet woman who maintained federal liaison accounts, filed quarterly oversight documents, and ensured our defense access remained fully active. The company leadership spent their days entertaining potential investors with grand projections, while I silently protected them from massive federal stop-work orders. When you fire the sole credential holder who legally authorizes your access to classified contracts, the entire system immediately locks you out. Security escorted me toward the front lobby as if I were a volatile threat who might steal company equipment on the way out. I signed the standard exit documentation, offered a reassuring nod to the terrified junior assistant at the desk, and walked out into the afternoon air. The moment I reached my personal vehicle, I logged onto my private laptop and transmitted a formal notification to 2 government oversight agencies. The simple subject line noted my immediate departure, attached the signed exit form, and officially severed my professional association with the firm. Within 20 minutes of my departure, the corporate human resources team attempted to rapidly revoke my internal system access. A string of automated emails flooded my personal inbox showing their frantic attempts to scrub my profile from the corporate network. They believed they were successfully locking down internal data, but the defense database had already processed my formal resignation. A brief automated response from the federal portal confirmed receipt of my update and stated that our facility security standing was officially placed under formal administrative review. Driving home in the quiet afternoon traffic felt surreal as the gravity of their mistake began to take shape. I actually took immense pride in my daily duties, keeping the firm aligned with strict federal standards and shielding management from potential legal disaster. I was the hidden structure supporting a massive enterprise, and people rarely notice structural support until it disappears and the roof collapses. They replaced my entire department with a young consultant named Trevor, who possessed a glowing business degree but 0 federal clearance credentials. By Friday morning, the executive team held an all-hands meeting to celebrate their new cost-saving measures. The chief officer stood on stage spouting hollow buzzwords about agile workflows and modern operational frameworks while the remaining staff sat in awkward silence. He proudly introduced Trevor as the new head of regulatory operations, completely ignoring the reality that the young man held no legal standing to sign federal documents. To make matters worse, they announced an upcoming high-level military bid that explicitly required my precise clearance level to submit. Over the weekend, the operational machinery began to grind to an abrupt and painful halt. Email communications to government liaisons bounced back with stark notifications stating that the primary facility contact was no longer recognized by the system. Vendors refused to release critical technical shipments because our active compliance status could not be verified through official channels. Department managers frantically messaged Trevor for guidance, but he lacked the basic authorization required to view the encrypted portals, leaving urgent requests unanswered while the clock ticked down. By Monday afternoon, internal panic had completely taken hold of the executive suite as reality broke through their denial. Legal counsel received a sharp notification rejecting an essential contract document due to an unverified facility officer signature. When they searched the federal portal to locate an active compliance designee, they discovered that my name was still listed as the sole authorized representative. Because management had failed to assign a qualified successor prior to my termination, The facility clearance was officially suspended across every active contract. The legal director frantically confronted the chief executive, explaining that operating without a designated officer was a severe federal violation. The chief executive attempted to bark orders and demand quick workarounds, but government protocol does not yield to corporate anger. Prime contractors began calling to formally suspend multi-million-dollar subcontracts until our facility credentials could be restored. The automated financial system immediately froze internal billing codes tied to classified projects, leaving the firm unable to process revenue or pay key staff members working on those assignments. On Thursday morning, 2 federal oversight officers arrived unannounced at the corporate headquarters without any dramatic fanfare. They bypassed the nervous front desk staff and walked directly into the executive corner office for a private confrontation. The lead agent placed a thick dossier on the table and asked why the firm had been operating without an authorized security officer for a full week. The chief executive stumbled through weak excuses about internal restructuring, only to be informed that their primary initiative was now officially voided. The fallout was swift, decisive, and entirely catastrophic for the executive team that had sought to eliminate my position. Losing active facilities standing with one government branch triggered an automatic review across every other military account in our portfolio. Major clients pulled their funding within days, unwilling to risk exposure to an ongoing federal investigation into non-compliant operations. The board of directors immediately launched an internal inquiry, quickly realizing that management had brought about their own ruin through sheer incompetence and arrogance. During an emergency board session, the chief executive attempted to shift the blame onto my sudden departure, claiming I had failed to provide adequate handover procedures. However, the corporate legal counsel presented my submitted exit documentation, proving that I had followed every federal protocol to the exact letter. The board realized that restoring our operational credentials would require months of rigorous audits, complete organizational restructuring, and massive financial losses. Facing imminent termination and public embarrassment, the chief executive quietly resigned from his position by the end of the week. A few days later, I sat comfortably on my porch with a warm cup of coffee, enjoying the absolute peace of my new reality. A former industry colleague sent me a message inviting me to speak on a professional panel regarding ethics and legal compliance in corporate management. I accepted the offer, eager to share how critical back-end infrastructure truly is to the survival of any major enterprise. I felt no burning desire for revenge, only a profound sense of balance watching the natural consequences of reckless corporate hubris unfold exactly as designed. Shortly after the panel event, I logged into an industry platform and accepted an offer to consult for our largest direct competitor. They understood the true value of proper regulatory oversight and were eager to secure my credentials for their expanding defense operations. My former employer had treated a vital structural pillar as an unnecessary expense, only to learn that rules do not bend for executive vanity. I picked up my pen, ready to sign the new agreement, knowing that true authority never needs to shout to make its presence felt.